Okay, this is the HaYom Yom, HaYom Yom, sayings of the previous Rebbe, which were gathered together by the Rebbe and put into a pamphlet form. Okay, throw a stick into the air, it will come back on its root side. It's in the Gemara, it's in the Talmud, in the Bereshit, and also it says there's also a Gemara over there. Okay, so it says if you throw a stick in the air, it will come back on its root. In other words, the heavy part, whatever you throw it into the air, the heavy part will come back down. It says, what does it mean to the root? It's talking about Jews. Throw a Jew in the air, a Jew will always come back Jew first, right? It'll come back to us. Our fathers, the holy Rebbes, they gave a heritage to the first Chassidim that their children, their children, and their children's children, and their daughter's children, so throughout their generations, wherever they are, have the root, which is the attraction to the innermost of the heart, to the Rebbes. At times, this is covered, and it's concealed in a number of garments. This is the service of whoever wants life, to remove these coverings and to establish periods of studying Chassidut and conduct himself in the manner of the Hasidic community. Now, this is really true about every Jew, but a Jew, when he reveals his Judaism, it's not so clear what that means. He becomes a member of the Reform the community, or he becomes part of divest and by what is it, BDS or something like that. That's how he's expressing his Judaism. He becomes a communist, right? That's how he expresses it. So it's not so clear. But by the Chassidim, it was clear. It was clear. And the Chassidim is be connected to the Rebbe, and especially to be connected to the teachings of the Rebbe, the Chassidut. Because the teachings of Chassidut, that's pure, essential Judaism. With pure essential Judaism is self-sacrifice for the Creator, but it has to be on the Creator's terms, right? The commandments, etc. So it's true there were a lot of boys from Chabad that went really, off the path. I mean, the people who put the previous Rebbe into prison were, communists in the Yevtsektia division, that they were Jews against Jews. They killed a lot of Jews, and they wanted to kill the previous Rebbe. And among them, there were Chabad Hasidim, boys that had left the family, and they say anyone who wasn't a communist wasn't young. But nevertheless, says the Rebbe, I assure you that eventually they all come back. They all come back. And meanwhile, we should strengthen our learning of Chassidut, which will draw others more easily back to the source. That's yesterday. Let's do today. That's today, and let's do tomorrow. I'm sorry. On the year 1829, as Bamidbar was on the 5th day of Sivan, like the speech that we're talking about here, the day before Shavuot, before lighting the Shabbat candles, but Tzemach said the third Rebbe of Chabad, he said a mimer, Sa'u et Rosh B'nai Yisrael, Lebeit Avotam. That's how it says in the beginning of the book of Numbers. Lift up the heads of the Jewish people. It means it's a biblical way of saying count everyone. Sa'u et Rosh. Even in English they say make a head count, right? Count. So elevate the heads of the Jews. This went according to the commentary of Ibn Ezra. He said Sa'u means lift up, not just to count, lift up, lifting up the head. The implication is that when you stress the soul in the body, when you stress the fact that you are a creation of God, and even more that you're a Jew, when you stress that that's your true identity, then there's an elevation in your head. What does that mean in your head? That your soul becomes elevated. Your soul becomes more attached, like a person that's standing upright. So his head is above the ground. An animal, his head is close to the ground. So he's interested in physical things, but a human being can look up. So it says, when a person, how you lift up the head, by thinking about ideas of God, thinking about ideas of the Creator and why He's creating the world, ideas of Torah. This affects your head, your thought, and also the essence of your soul. In this way, he also explained a lot of Torah verses and statements in the Zohar and the Midrash, how these elevate the head. That's the first day. That's on Shabbat. On the noon of Shabbat, the Rebbe said a mimer, Vayirashtich. God said, I will marry you, Jewish people. Vayirashtich alolam. What does it mean? God says, I will marry the Jewish people. He explains this as it's printed in the Kuti Torah. We didn't learn that this week. It's in this week's Torah portion. The next day, the first day of Shavuot, he said another mimer, which is called Usfartem, count. Usfartem, that's referring to the counting of the Omer, how it's written in the Kuti Torah. That we did learn, how counting the Omer refines the 7 emotions, etc. During the festive meal of the second day of Shavuot, the Rebbe said the mimer, it says that wisdom comes from nothing, comes from nowhere. That's the second elaboration of what it says, Tisbru Chamishim, that you should count 50 days like it says in the Kuti Torah. Okay, the reason he's saying this is to tell us that every time the Rebbe's said a mimer, it wasn't just a person saying a speech. Even though there are speeches which are monumental speeches, right, which are known, the Gettysburg Address or whatever, the speeches which are, famous speeches that turn the tide of the world, whatever, right? I ask not for what you should do, what your country can do for you, what you can do for your country. These things. But when the Rebbe said something, this broke through the concealment between God and the world and God, and each one in a different way. So these Maamorim were said on the holiday of Shavuot, when the Torah was given, to bring the Torah more into the world. So that's why these Maamorim, and you can find all these Maamorim that are printed in the Kuti Torah, and we can learn them. That's what we learn in the morning. But, okay, before that's what every morning. These Maamorim. Okay.